You're listening to WCAT Radio, your home for authentic Catholic programming.
Welcome. My name is Frank Ambrosio. I'm the co-director of the My Dante project at Georgetown University. It's my great pleasure today to welcome you to a reading of Inferno, the first canticle of Dante's Divine Comedy. It's voiced by Danny Fitzpatrick, and he's reading his own translation of the poem, which he recently completed in commemoration of the 700th anniversary of Dante's death in 1321. Poetry is meant to be spoken and heard. As Danny speaks, listen for the simplicity and economy of the English words and rhythms which Danny has discovered at work in Dante's native Italian. In their music and textures, we hear the primal power with which they break forth from silence, revealing the whole world, together with all of us, the living and the dead. So let's join Danny Fitzpatrick now on Dante's journey.
Hello and welcome back to the Dante in a Year podcast. My name is Danny Fitzpatrick, and today we're continuing with Dante's Inferno, Canto 26. Rejoice, Florence, for being so great that your wings beat over sea and throughout the earth, and your name spans the Inferno. Among the thieves I found 5 such citizens of yours who brought me to shame, and who exalt you in no grand orations. But if near morning one dreams of the truth, you will feel in just a little time that agony that Prado no less than the others wills you. And if it were now, it could not be too timely, so let it be as indeed it can't but be, for it will weigh on me more heavily the greater time it takes. We departed, and upon those steps that had whitened us at first descent, my leader mounted once more, and drew me after. And following our lonely way among ledges and the rock of the ridge, the feet could go no more without the hands. At that I was saddened, and now sadness swells again when I direct my mind to that I saw, and I restrain my genius more than usual, that it might not rush where virtue won't guide it, so that, if a good star or thing yet better give me its blessing, I'll not envy it. As the rustic rests upon the hillock, in the time that he who shines on the world least keeps his face closed to us, as the fly concedes to the mosquito, and sees fireflies down throughout the valley, there perhaps where he picks grapes and plows. Of so many flames was the 8th bulge all resplendent, as occurred to me as soon as I was there where the depth appeared. And as he who was avenged with bears watched Elijah's chariot depart, when the horses rose right up to heaven, who couldn't follow with his eyes, except that he saw the flame above, as a little cloud leaping upward. So each moved down the throat of the depth, so that no one showed the theft, and every flame involved a sinner. I stood over the bridge to look, so that if I'd not had a rock nearby, I should have plunged without being pushed. And the leader, who saw me so intent, said, "Within the flames are spirits, each one wound in that which burns him." "My master," I replied, "I'm more certain for hearing you, but I had already noticed what it was, and now I wish to say, who is in that fire that goes so divided above, that it seems surging from the pyre where Eteocles was placed with his brother?" He responded, "There within are martyred Ulysses and Diomedes, and together they come to vengeance as they did to God's ire. And within their flame they groan for the trap of the horse that made the door, through which issued the Romans' gentle seed. They complain within for the art for which, dead, Didamia still sorrows for Achilles, and there they bear the pain of the Palladium." "If within those flames they're able to speak," I said, "Master, 10 times I pray and pray again that the prayer avail 1,000, that you not deny my awaiting their faces until the horned flame should come. You see how I bend to the desire." And he to me, "Your prayer is worth much praise, and so I accept it, but see that your tongue is restrained. Leave it to me to talk, for I have conceived that which you wish. They may evade your speech, since they were Greeks." As soon as the flame had come near, when the time and place appeared right to my leader, I heard him speak in this form: "O you who are two within one flame, if I merited you while I lived, if I merited you even a bit when in the world I wrote my high verses, don't move on, but let one of you say where, lost to himself, he turned to die." The greater horn of the antique flame began, murmuring, to flicker, just as that fatigued with wind. Then, whipping its summit here and there, as if it were the tongue that spoke, it let out its voice and said, "When I parted from Circe, who'd drawn me down for more than a year there near Gaeta, before Aeneas so named it, neither sweetness of a son, nor piety to an elder father, nor the debt of love that ought to have made Penelope glad, could conquer the ardor within me to go become an expert in the world and human vice and human valor. So I set myself on the depth of the spreading sea, with one boat alone, and that small company of those who'd not deserted. I saw one shore up to Spain, the other to Morocco and the island of Sardinia, and the others bathed all around by the sea. My company and I were old and worn when we reached the mouth of the strait where Hercules signals his regards, calling man to press no farther on. On my right hand I left Seville, while already on the other I'd left Ceuta. "O brothers," I said, "who through 100,000 perils are come now to the west of the world, to this so little vigilance that remains to our senses, will not to deny the experience of coming behind the sun, of seeing the world without people. Consider your sowing. You were fashioned not to live as brutes, but to follow strength and conscience." I so sharpened my companions for the voyage with this little speech that afterwards I could only have restrained them with pain, and we turned our back to the morning and made wings of our oars in the foolish flight, always gaining ground on the left bank. Now already night saw the stars of the other pole, and our own so low as not to surge from the surface of the sea. 5 times was relit, and as often extinguished the light below the moon, since we'd entered on our passage over the deep, when appeared a mountain, brown for its distance, and it seemed to me so tall that I had never seen its equal. We celebrated, and we swiftly turned to grief, for a disturbance was born of that new world, and struck our bark straight on. 3 times it whirled her with all the water. At the 4th it lifted the stern above us, and the prow went below, as pleased another, until the sea closed over us again. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Dante in a Year podcast. See you next time for Dante's Inferno, Canto 27.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
Thank you for listening to a production of WCAT Radio. Please join us in our mission of evangelization. And don't forget, love lifts up when knowledge takes flight.